We're going. Okay, so tonight is myself and my good friend from all the way from Cambridge. He's based in three locations, and I'm going to attempt to get his name right in the first go. So it's Giuseppe Ruffolo, Ruffello,
Perfect.
Ruffalo, and he's got three locations. So his location is predominantly Canada. He's got a place in the US, and he's also got a place in Monaco in the south of France. So welcome, Giuseppe. Thank you for taking your time out, because I know that you're very busy, and very valuable time. But thank you for doing this little Zoom, and I'm
No
sure it's
problem,
going to be
Phil.
interesting. So we've been associates, friends on Facebook for a number of years, and
Yes.
we've just started interacting on the old Zoom. So you've agreed to come on, not without being forced up at the arm of the back, but I'm looking forward to that, because we've just discussed about your background, etc. So enough about me. So tell me a little bit about you, about Giuseppe. Where have you come from, and where are you now?
So I was born in a small town in Italy called Merano Marchesato, and it's a very small town of about 3,000 people in southern Calabria. So I was 7 when my parents decided to immigrate to Canada, and we came to Canada to have a better life, because in Calabria, there wasn't much work at the time.
Yeah.
We have had a really interesting life in Canada, because there was lots of good times and bad times. We went through some difficult times, and as you grow and as you go through difficult times, I think sometimes your growth expands through the difficult times. So there was another expression that I like, and it says, when you succeed, you party. When you fail, you ponder, and much more comes out of pondering than out of partying. And I've always liked that expression, and it's absolutely true. So I've had my failures, I've had my successes, and I love people. I love seeing them create different things for themselves, and be in a position where they can grow amongst themselves and create growth for other people next to them. That's a beautiful thing.
I mean, it's such an amazing story coming from, and you hear so many stories about people coming from like a very humble background like you have, and they've gone from a humble background, and I won't go into your background as yet, I'll let you explain that, to becoming the person that you are, because I think a lot of it comes from the grounding. People get grounded at a very young age, and it determines which way they're going to go. You can go either left, you can go right, and we have to make those choices. Sometimes we make the wrong choices, sometimes we make the right choices, but it's all about life, isn't it? So over your career, you've had such a varied life, etc., across where you're living at the moment. So what gave you the inspiration? What inspired you to be where you are now?
That's a good question. And I think that as a child, I always believed there was more than what was presented. And if you believe that there's more, you start to search. And when you search, you find. So if the person doesn't search, they will never find. And most people, unfortunately, say that this is my life. I've been blessed or unblessed or stuck in this life, and they don't search for new meaning in their lives. And sometimes it takes a situation where you hit rock bottom to create a new start. And once you create that new start, then the sky's open and you can have whatever you want, but you have to do it in a way that is not hurting to other people for it to last. And you have to build a really big base, because if you build a big base, it's very hard, like the pyramid, very hard to knock someone over when they've got a good base to start with. And that takes a long time. I have this other saying that you either pay now or you pay later. And if you pay now when you're younger, it's a lot less painful than when you're older and having to pay.
Yeah. I mean, so we go back down to the groundings, building up your foundation. I mean, we can use different terminology there, but coming back from grounded, it does build up that foundation where you've actually got to go through the pain, and you've got to endure the pain to come out of it to build something else.
Yes.
So you've built something quite amazing, and obviously we're going to go through that little experience in a minute. So what was the catalyst? What has made you? What was your driving force? Is it you, or is it your family, or is it something behind you?
No, I think the family had partly to do with it, because
Yeah,
even though we came from humble beginnings, my parents never said that this is where you're stuck. So the big thing also is to learn,
yeah,
to read, to understand, to grow, and then believe that things can happen. And once you believe, then things start to happen. And that's
yeah,
the hardest part. The hardest part is getting over that belief, because most people will say, oh, well, yes, I want to become a millionaire, but they never make a plan. You need to make a plan, and you need to move in the direction of that plan. And if you don't move, then you will never succeed. So
yeah,
it's the little succeeds, or as you succeed, the little successes that you have in life will
yeah,
create sort of a ball that will start to roll, and then will build and build and build. And then
yeah.
you realize that all those little successes created the big success.
Yeah, well, we've spoken a few times about the power of the mind and your mindset and everything else, and we've shared
Yes,
things about Nightingale, Earl Nightingale,
correct.
some
Oops.
yeah, some of the amazing people who, like, I don't think they thought themselves as mentors, but they shared their own experiences. And one of Earl Nightingale's stories is you couldn't get over why there's so many poor people when there's so much that you can actually do with yourself, and it comes back to your mindset. So
Yes.
I mean, I talk about mindset because your background is a lot different from my background. My background is the martial arts side of it, where your background is what you do. And we'll talk about your passion in a minute. And that's one of the things I'm quite excited about. This is my exciting face. Uh, I don't get excited very often, but there you go. But you've got to have that mindset, and I think your mindset is that driver, what has driven you to where you are at the moment.
Right.
So I won't go through where we're going to be, because there's a couple of questions that I like to ask people, and what I really want to get into is what is your passion? And I mean, we've just shared this. And if I can allude a little bit, I mean, we've spoke a little bit, we've touched on this today about your cars, your vehicles, your Ferraris, and you've been very, very successful in what you've got, and you've got a beautiful collection of vehicles, but you've also
Thank you.
been quite blessed in getting involved in, is it the Mille
Miglia.
Miglia, and it's quite ironic. It's come out where the film, the Ferrari's just been released, and you've got a little bit of synergy with that film, haven't you? Really?
I do. So about a year ago, a friend of mine and I said, what have we not done that we really want to do? And because we have a passion about motor cars and Ferrari especially, we said we've never done the Mille Miglia.
Yeah,
And as I was mentioning to you, Phil, there's a huge amount of people that tried to get in, and there's only 400, and last year there was 428 spots.
yeah,
And so the cars you see there are unbelievable. So the Mille Miglia, just a quick session on that.
yeah,
It was a race that started in 1927 and went
yeah,
to 1957.
yeah,
And then it was stopped, and I'll get into that in a second. But since then, it's been a rally. But the rally is a very interesting rally. You can only have a car that was from 1927 to 1957. So
yeah,
no cars newer than 1957, even today, can drive in it. And if they've driven in it before, or if they've had race history, then your chances of getting into the Mille Miglia are much higher.
Yeah.
So if you look at this Ferrari movie, the new one that's just come out, it's a very good movie. It goes into the life and the difficulties of Enzo Ferrari and how he, you know, his passion was driven by racing, not by money.
Yeah.
And he actually went broke trying to race Ferraris. And so then Fiat ended up buying them when they didn't have much money. But he became the icon for automobiles.
Well, I mean, I've been reading through the about the film and everything. I mean, I'm looking at it, basically in the summer of 1957, Italian entrepreneur Enzo Ferrari prepares his racing team for the Mille Miglia, an open road endurance base. So they've made it like an endurance race, haven't they? Really?
It was. It's 1,000 miles of endurance through the country roads of Italy and through the little streets.
Yeah, and I mean, there was his son. Did he lose his son?
He lost a son before that. So during the race, there was 4 entries that Ferrari put in, and they were mainly the Testarossas and I think the 250 Lusso that was put in there. But the problem happened that towards the end of the race, one of the drivers popped a tire through something that was on the road, spun up in the air, and plowed through a number of spectators and killed 7 people, I think 3 adults and 4 children.
Yeah.
And that's what stopped the Mille Miglia as an actual race in Italy. So there has been no race since 1957.
Yeah. So, and I'm reading through it there. Sorry, Giuseppe. I'm basically, the driver who was driving the vehicle at the time wasn't meant to be the driver, was it?
No. So they switched them out. And because they were having some difficulties, they switched him out, and he was doing really well, and he probably would have won the race if he hadn't have crashed. And, you know, Lady Monica Beccari, which is part of the Beccari rum family, she has sponsored and produced quite a few of these films. So she produced Lamborghini a few years ago and his story. And now she produced this Ferrari movie, and she felt that it really needed to be told the way that it truly was. Wow. And it's a really well done movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going through because we only decided a wee while ago that we was going to do this, and it was, you know, when we read through this, it's an amazing story about. I mean, Enzo Ferrari is just. I mean, we spoke about him, and he's not he didn't have a good ride, did he? Really, pardon the pun.
No,
but he struggled.
He did, and as a matter of fact, he struggled quite hard because during the Second World War, the factory was bombed not once but twice.
Wow!
And so he had to rebuild it, basically brick by brick, and redid it all again. And so he was very determined.
Wow! I mean. So, on your little exposure when you did about the vehicle that you did for rally, so how did you find doing that actual drive? How did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it a lot. It was enduring because we're going through, you know, torrential rains with no top on the car, and going through these little wee streets and people cheering and carrying on, and it was great. But let me tell you, a friend of mine, Jean, met with us at the beginning of the race, and he said, look, get to know everyone, get to chat with everyone, because after the first day, no one will want to talk to you. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange, but that's absolutely true, because after the first day, we start at 7:30 in the morning, we finish at 9:30 at night, and you're driving an open air car with non-synchromesh transmission. So you're exhausted. You don't even want to eat. You just want to go to bed. Yeah. And you do that for 4 days.
Oh, dear God.
God. So it really is an endurance test.
Yeah. And what was the car that you drove? What was
so it was a 1953 Maserati race car with a tail fin.
Oh, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to share a lot of your things because obviously the the security aspect of it. I mean, is ironically, yesterday I was talking about people's prize and possessions of what we got. So I won't be disclosing anything about your vehicles or anything about where you drive them and everything. But it must have been an amazing experience to do that. And you actually you've got a place in Monaco as well.
Yes, so we decided, I've been going to Monaco since 1988. Absolutely love the area. It has some type of attraction to me. I don't understand it fully, but it's always attracted me. And now I have some wonderful friends, and we decided to buy a place last June. Well, actually, last July. We put an offer in, and we took possession in November. And I'm flying back in a couple of weeks to enjoy it for a while. And I just got nominated for the Automobile Club, and that's this.
Wow.
On this side. What? This side.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah.
That's the Monaco Automobile Club of Monaco. And so that was been one of my dreams for many, many years, to belong to the Automobile Club of Monaco. And it's not for everyone to love. And it's not that it's, a crazy thing to belong, but it's just one of those things in life that you want to do. And if you want to do it, then you do it. And you work hard to make sure you achieve it.
And this all comes back to what we was discussing a few weeks back about your mindset, isn't it? Your mindset is because a lot of people talk about they can't do it, they don't want to do it and everything. And I talk, because I've come off what I'm doing now, because as you know, my old background was looking after people. And now I've come into trying to mentor people and build people up. Having written 2 books, I've decided to try and help and support people. And what I'm trying to do on these little blogs and videos that we're doing is getting the same message out to the same people, that it is mindset. I'm a competitor, as you are, but my competition is a little bit more different, should we say? I mean, for me, on the karate mat, we've got to have that want to win, but same as you, where you want to win or you want to achieve, and it's that driving force, isn't it? Pardon the pun again, it's not about that.
It is, Phil, and it's from the inside. So I think you have to visualize yourself there. And that's where the difference is with a lot of people. I think there's 3 components. One is believing that you can do it. One is getting excited about it, because the excitement builds momentum. And the third one is seeing yourself in that position. Once you see yourself in that position, then it becomes possible. And that's the beauty of possibilities. Everything is possible. It's just a matter of what you choose. That's it.
I mean, what we use for my stuff in the karate side of it, this would have been, well, it is my 54th year in karate. And as you know, I won the world championship in '96, and I was ranked both in the world and European titles and everything.
That's fantastic.
But that, I actually visualized exactly the same thing. I never realized about the trophy, but I remember going onto the mat and competing, and that switch and that mindset was really, it was there. You actually visualize there, and what they call it in martial arts is no minds. And basically, it's a visualization of you actually projecting yourself into there. So going back to you, nothing to do with me, talking about you. So when you was a wee kid, did you ever think of you driving a Ferrari or a car or owning or being involved in anything? Did you ever visualize that as young?
Absolutely. So when I was a small kid, I got a little red pedal car. And I stuck Ferrari stickers on my little pedal car. Brilliant. And everybody laughed. And then after that, I had a little Vespa. Little Italian Vespa, and I stuck Ferrari stickers on my little red Italian Vespa. So yes, I always visualized myself. I had a Cortina GT because that's what I could afford, back then. And it was a standard, and I drove it with driving gloves and Ferrari stickers on the front panels.
Marvelous.
So that's a Cortina GT. It was far from a Ferrari, but I actually drove it like a Ferrari.
But that was your Ferrari at that time, wasn't it?
It was.
That was you.
That's what I could afford.
Yeah. So, you know, it doesn't matter what you're driving, but that's your mindset, isn't it?
It
So,
is.
I mean,
And when you project forward,
yeah,
so I bought my first Ferrari when I was 27.
right.
So that was quite young, but
Yeah.
I invested in some housing and done well. And I actually sold four of the places with my brother and my dad. And I had enough money to buy my first Ferrari. And I had to fly to Vancouver to buy it because it was $10,000 cheaper than it was in Toronto.
Wow.
So that, once you're determined, that's how much determination it takes. I had to fly out there to be able to buy it.
That's absolutely amazing. That's an amazing story. That, I mean, I could talk to you all night about stuff like this, because I think it's not just about the car. It's not, but it's the mindset, which is there's so much synergy there about connecting. And I won't take a lot of your time up now. Last couple of questions.
Sure.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Wow. That's a good question, because if you had asked me 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I could have probably answered it better. Now I've accomplished most of the things that I've wanted to accomplish in life. And I would like to be in Monaco more, in that area. Go to the events that I've been doing now a little bit more. Get indoctrinated into that kind of lifestyle. Not because I want to look like a millionaire or billionaire. That's not the point. The point is that it's a very small community. And if you're a good person, they accept you. It doesn't matter if you're a billionaire or not. It makes no difference. Once you're in the group, then you're in the group. And so if I see myself 5 years from now with a little bit more gray hair, I would like to be a little more distinguished in the sense that I would like to give back even more than I do now. So as you know, now we travel around doing different galas, raising money for different charities, and it's a wonderful thing to give back. Oh, I have a quick story before I go. If do we have time?
We've got as much time as you need.
Okay, so this is an interesting story, and this is something for your viewers to really aspire to, because once you truly think about something and get excited about it. So Ferrari is one of my passions. Castles are another one of my passions. I love castles. And I had a small little one in upper state New York called Broomstick Castle.
Seen that.
Yeah, very pretty. And I had to save it. So I kind of redid it over 3 years. But what was interesting is I always loved castles in France. So we were traveling to Paris with my wife and another couple. And I said, before we go there, I would like to look up a few castles, and I'd like to go see them that are for sale. I'm not sure why, but I thought it would be really great at some point, maybe to look at buying one in France. So we get to Paris, and we're doing the little tourist things, and we're walking into our little apartment that we rented, and I get a phone call from a director. He says, well, hi, is this Giuseppe Ruffolo? And I said, yes. And he said, well, this is John from HGTV. I'm a director from New York, and we've been following you for a while. We know you know a lot about castles, and we'd like to do a new pilot called Castle Hunters in France.
Wow.
And I thought, out of all the people in the world, why, would they call me? But what gets even cooler is that on my iPad, I had saved about 4 different castles to call and maybe go and visit and see what they were like. 2 of the castles that they had for the show were 2 of them that were saved on my iPad.
No.
What are the chances of that, Phil?
Wow, it's amazing.
So my wife and I did the show. It's only a half an hour show. It's called Castle Hunters 2015. So if anyone wants to see it, I'm not much of an actor, but the reason why I wanted to tell that story is that there is a perfect example of how synergy kind of takes over. You start to think about something, you get excited about something, you look it up, you send it out to the universe, and all of a sudden, somebody out of the clear blue asks you to do a castle hunter show.
Wow.
It's almost, it's one in a million chance, or maybe more.
Probably a lot more, actually. I mean, I have one that I can share with you. Early 2003, 4. A friend of mine called Phil Williams. And this is, again, you'll relate to this, and it's very spooky, this. Phil is a really, really good friend of mine. He does a lot of music events and everything else. And he invited me to do, it was a TV thing for a massive corporation. I can't mention the corporation. And I had to dress up as a musketeer. When you ever speak to Nadia, and I'll send you the picture. Sure. And what he wanted me to do was a film, and I had to do like a fight scene. So I had to do the fight scene. And the fight scene was based on like a pier, and I was a musketeer. And I remember turning up, me and Nadia and the other lady who was with us at the time. And he said, "We're trying to work out how to kill you, Phil." I went, "Oh." He said, "It's for the film, it's for the film." So I used to do all these karate kicks and spinning kicks with this musketeer thing and everything.
Right.
And this is what you'll relate to. The actual premiere was, or premiere, however you want to say it, was actually filmed in a French chateau just outside of Paris. And I'll send you some pictures over later. And what they actually did, this French chateau, it was a beautiful place. I can't even pronounce where it was, but it was just outside Paris. And they actually transferred one of the inside buildings into a Parisian old-fashioned street. And that's where they filmed, or that's where they shown this. It was like
fabulous.
It was bizarre, but that was again. It was in France, and that was my only claim to fame of being a musketeer.
You've had many claims to fame, which is really good.
And I got walloped on it as well. But there you go. But I mean, different things, and there's so many different things. But I love the thing about the synergy and that mindset. It's absolutely amazing. So, what is your favorite? This is the last one. What is your favorite car out of your collection?
Oh, of the collection. Oh, that's interesting.
In fact, don't say too much.
No, but it's all right.
Yeah,
I have one of the Ferris Bueller cars from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Wow.
So that one is a really fun car to drive. But the race car is probably my favorite because it has 4 pipes out the back that are about 3 inches each. And the sound is unbelievable. And it has no top, it has no air conditioning, it has no heat, no radio, but it is the most fun to drive.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can only imagine. But Giuseppe, I mean, all I can say is thank you so much, because I know that you're a really, really busy chap. And it's amazing that you just come on like this. And we shared those amazing stories. And hopefully,
my pleasure.
When you get to Monaco, I might come over and say hello and take a picture of you.
Be happy to meet you there. And, all I can say to people is that truly believe. If it can happen to me and it can happen to Phil, it can happen to anyone.
Yeah. So if you had a message for somebody who's got an aspiration in life, Giuseppe, what would be the most grounding thing that you would say to that person?
So the most important thing that I would say is truly think about where you want to go. Write it down, because there's a correlation that happens with the brain, the hand, the pen, and the paper. Don't go on your computer and type it out. It doesn't work. There's a correlation that happens. Once you write it out, it becomes fused in your mind. And once it's fused in your mind, your subconscious mind will start to create the opportunities and the synergies for things to come together. But then you have to pay attention, because if you pay attention to it, then things will show up. If you don't pay attention, those things are always there. You just don't pay attention to them.
Wow. Right. Brilliant. Are you ever going to write a book?
That's that's a good question, Phil. I've been asked a few times to do that, and I think I might at some point once I slow down.
Yeah.
And when I'm sitting on my balcony looking back towards Monte Carlo, then I will probably write a book because it'll be inspiring.
Marvelous. That's absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to wrap up there. I mean, we'll continue a little bit of a chat afterwards, but thank you so much for taking the time out. And
Thank you,
it's
Phil.
been an amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Right. Let me just stop that. Stop recording.